This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration. Yeah.
What I think is interesting about this case, this story, is you can be highly legal and unethical at the same time.
It's no secret that Dalton, Illinois has become a hotspot for local drama, and the latest clash between Trustee Kiana Belcher and Mayor Tiffany Henyard is giving everyone plenty to talk about. This isn't your typical small-town government tale. It's a full-blown saga filled with power struggles, accusations, and fiery debates. Let's be real, who doesn't enjoy a bit of political tea? But beyond the drama lies a pressing issue: accountability. Trustee Belcher has taken a stand, raising serious concerns about what many perceive as a lack of transparency from Mayor Henyard. Meanwhile, Dalton's board meetings have been anything but calm, with tensions reaching a boiling point.
Tonight in South Holland, in a room filled with curiosity and concern, Tiffany Henyard addressed her constituents.
The Thornton Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor invited the community to Township Talk, where she responded to our report about her use of the township credit card by mentioning travel expenses.
Let's set the scene. Trustee Kiana Baylor, one of the more outspoken members of Dalton's board, has been laser-focused on the village's finances, particularly scrutinizing questionable spending. On the other side is Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose leadership style has often been described as, well, unorthodox. Henyard has faced allegations ranging from mishandling funds to overspending, and even intentionally creating a lack of paper trails to avoid scrutiny. It's the kind of drama that makes you question whether these officials are working for the people or just playing political chess. During a recent board meeting, tensions hit a boiling point when the topic of inauguration expenses came up. The village had apparently footed the bill for Henyard's inauguration, and Baylor wasn't about to let it slide without some tough questions. Were we at a set dollar amount or not? She asked, her tone sharp yet professional. The room fell silent until the village attorney stepped in, explaining that the expenses were deemed legal since they were covered under a special event fund already budgeted for such occasions. According to the attorney, as long as no single invoice exceeded $5,000, prior board approval wasn't required. But that explanation didn't sit well with Baylor. She was quick to point out how easily the system could be manipulated. The event's invoices, it turned out, had been strategically split into smaller amounts, each under $5,000, a tactic that allowed the expenses to bypass board oversight. When pressed on this, the attorney admitted that while invoices under $5,000 didn't need prior approval, they could still be approved retroactively by the board. The loophole was glaring, and Baylor wasn't willing to ignore it. She voted against the motion, maintaining her stance that the process lacked transparency and accountability.
I am about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there won't be anything. It'll just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
Henyard, however, defended the practice, insisting that the expenses were within the budget and dismissing Baylor's objections as unnecessary drama. She suggested that any concerns could have been addressed privately rather than in a public meeting, a recurring preference in Henyard's approach to avoid public scrutiny of internal disagreements. Baylor, on the other hand, stood firm, stressing the importance of open discussion and transparency. She argued that trustees have a duty to ask questions and ensure accountability for the decisions brought before them. Her stance struck a chord with the audience, starking murmurs of agreement and intensifying the already palpable tension in the room.
Or the administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking to necessarily...
This isn't the first time Henyard has been accused of bending the rules. Critics frequently cite her track record of questionable spending, including tens of thousands of dollars in unaccounted purchases, lavish taxpayer-funded trips, and a pattern of approving expenses without proper oversight. Adding to the controversy is an ongoing federal investigation into her office. Yet what often grabs the most attention is her dismissal of criticism as personal attack. They talked about Jesus Christ, Henyard once remarked during a meeting, likening herself to a martyr. Why wouldn't I think they're going to do me the same way? For many, though, the real issue lies in her approach, or lack thereof, to governance. The recent uproar over inauguration expenses is just the tip of the iceberg. At the heart of residents' frustration is a budget process that feels opaque and rushed. During the same meeting, Baylor highlighted concerns about the budget being presented without adequate time for review. "We got it at 3:26 p.m., she noted, clearly frustrated. "The residents haven't even been able to look at it, and now we're expected to make an informed decision." She called for a detailed, itemized budget breakdown similar to previous years, but Henyard seemed more intent on pushing the process forward than addressing those concerns.
Happening tonight, community concerns in Thornton Township and a push to regulate what some call out-of-control spending by Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
For longtime observers of Dalton politics, the shift in Henyard's behavior is particularly jarring. As a trustee, she was known for her meticulousness, often scrutinizing every budget line item and questioning even minor discrepancies. "Eye so low?" she once asked about a budget line for tree trimming. "I understand we're doing cuts, but I get a ton of complaints about trees. I think that amount should stay where it's at." She even advocated for increasing the tree maintenance budget, showcasing her deep involvement in the details. Fast forward to today, and that same level of scrutiny is conspicuously absent, a glaring double standard that hasn't gone unnoticed by her critics. The drama didn't end there. The meeting also tackled Dalton's long-standing credit card controversy, a hot topic for months. The finance director claimed the cards had been canceled the previous year, but Baylor wasn't convinced. "If the cards were canceled, why are there still electronic warrant lists showing charges?" she asked, her tone pointed. The tension escalated as Henyard accused Baylor and another trustee of hijacking the village's bank accounts, a claim Baylor swiftly refuted with evidence. Emails from the bank indicated it was Henyard's own team, not the trustees, who had access to the accounts. Once again, the confusion and obstruction seemed to serve the interests of one person, Henyard.
Good evening. There were many tense moments in tonight's meeting. At times, Supervisor Tiffany Henyard took on her fellow trustees when it came to money and expenses, even accusing some of them of spreading lies about her.
What stands out most in these meetings is the widening rift between Henyard and the other trustees. While Baylor and her colleagues advocate for transparency and collaboration, Henyard seems intent on doubling down on her authority. She frequently reminds the board that they don't handle day-to-day operations, a pointed assertion of her control. However, this heavy-handed approach has only fueled perceptions that she's more focused on consolidating power than serving the residents of Dalton. And the people are taking notice. Frustrated by the lack of progress and constant political infighting, residents are beginning to speak out. "The real business isn't being done because of all this nonsense," one resident, Darylene, told reporters. "We need action, someone who's actually going to work for the people, not themselves." This sentiment is echoed by many, especially as the village grapples with the financial deficit in the millions. Dion Voronovich, being one, asked Dion during workout what it was like when all of this started. Henyard's critics argue that her leadership has only worsened the crisis, citing her lavish spending and failure to foster cooperation within the board.
"Y'all thought that I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me. I didn't do any of that. So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started this whole smear campaign."
What makes this saga so compelling is its sheer audacity. Henyard, once a staunch advocate for transparency and accountability, now appears to be doing everything in her power to avoid it. Meanwhile, Baylor's persistence in demanding answers has earned her both praise and criticism. Henyard has repeatedly tried to discredit Baylor, accusing her of creating unnecessary drama and undermining the board's unity. But Baylor isn't backing down. As the latest meeting wrapped up, it was clear that the tension between the two isn't going away anytime soon. Their clash represents opposing visions for Dalton's future. Baylor fights for restoring trust and accountability, while Henyard focuses on maintaining control amidst mounting criticism. For Dalton residents, this is yet another chapter in a long and messy tale of local politics gone awry. The million-dollar question remains: can Dalton overcome this leadership crisis, or is the village doomed to repeat its mistakes? One thing is certain: this isn't the last we'll hear of Trustee Baylor and Mayor Henyard. Their ongoing battle feels like the plot of a hit reality show, with each twist exposing deeper issues of unchecked power, financial mismanagement, and the relentless struggle for control.
Please tell me how you're out of order. You're out of order. How do they operate, trustees?
Let's rewind to one of the more jaw-dropping moments from a recent showdown, the debate over payroll transparency. You'd think providing payroll reports to trustees would be straightforward, but not in Dolton. Baylor and fellow trustee Jason House revealed they'd been repeatedly blocked from accessing basic financial documents, information they needed to make informed decisions. According to Baylor, the finance department outright stated they couldn't release the reports without Henyard's approval. "We've been asking for months," Baylor said, her frustration evident. "How can we make decisions for this village if we can't see where the money's going?" Henyard, of course, denied the allegations. "I have never told anyone not to share payroll reports," she insisted, her tone laced with exasperation. Replied the Prime Minister, "Why would I need to approve something like that? That's just not true." But Baylor wasn't buying it and came prepared, producing emails showing that the finance director had indeed cited instructions from the mayor as the reason for withholding the reports. The room fell silent and the audience's collective gasp was almost audible. Henyard, however, brushed it off as a misunderstanding, claiming the finance team must have misinterpreted her directions. Convenient, right?
Will be on the general election ballot despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who is running for re-election.
But wait, it gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective. The clash over payroll access is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Henyard has been accused of fostering a culture of secrecy within her administration, and it extends far beyond payroll issues. Take, for instance, the village's ongoing credit card scandal. During the same meeting, Baylor pressed for answers, questioning why the board hadn't received any credit card statements since May of last year. "If we're paying these bills, we need to see what we're actually approving," she said, and honestly, she has a point. How can anyone be expected to sign off on expenses they've never even seen?
Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard is finding a way to spend money that trustees say they intentionally did not approve, one describing it to me tonight.
Henyard responded with a mix of deflection and vague explanations, claiming the credit cards had been canceled months earlier and asserting that the village no longer used them. Baylor, however, demanded proof, questioning why final statements hadn't been provided and why charges were still appearing on the warrant list. Henyard denied any wrongdoing and accused Baylor and House of being overly dramatic and stirring up unnecessary controversy. But later, emails from the bank revealed that Henyard's team still had full access to the accounts, directly contradicting her statements. The situation felt like a plot twist in a thriller, except it was real life, with Dolton's taxpayers caught in the middle.
It's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Wow.
Let's talk about the title of this, because it's called Super Mayor, and that is what Tiffany Henyard calls herself.
Speaking of taxpayers, let's look at the bigger picture. Dolton is currently facing a financial crisis, with a deficit running into the millions. Yet, instead of focusing on solutions, the board seems to be consumed with endless power struggles. Residents are understandably fed up. "We're the ones who suffer while they argue over nonsense," one voter said after the meeting. How about they actually fix something for once? This frustration is shared by many in the community, especially as the village's financial woes continue to worsen. Henyard's administration has faced severe criticism for allegedly misusing public funds on personal luxuries, with reports revealing tens of thousands of dollars spent on questionable items, including frivolous Amazon purchases, as described by one trustee. In addition, her inauguration expenses, which Henyard claims were for the people, are widely seen as extravagant and self-serving. Many residents have expressed frustration, with some even likening the misuse of funds to treating the village's finances as a personal piggy bank.
Has this surprised you, how much the viewership has gravitated towards this woman? Like, people from all over the world are talking.
Despite these serious allegations, Henyard has dismissed the criticism as a smear campaign orchestrated by her political opponents. She has framed the attacks as a reaction to her position as a strong woman in power, claiming they are an attempt to undermine her authority. However, this narrative is challenged by the fact that many of her critics, such as Baylor, are also women who have been vocal in demanding accountability. Baylor's approach contrasts sharply with Henyard's, as she is known for her commitment to transparency. Baylor has consistently asked tough questions and shown a willingness to confront the mayor. even at the risk of political repercussions. Her determination has earned her widespread support from Dalton residents who are hungry for change, with some even praising her as one of the few genuinely fighting for the community's interests.
This manipulation. Nobody likes being manipulated, and when you get here, you know that's exactly what's happening.
Nevertheless, Henyard still has a base of loyal supporters who view her as a groundbreaking leader facing unfair opposition. At a recent public event, one supporter described her as a trailblazer targeted for challenging the status quo. While her tenure has included initiatives aimed at improving Dalton's infrastructure, critics argue that these efforts have been overshadowed by the ongoing controversy surrounding her administration. One of the most telling moments in this saga came toward the end of a meeting, when Baylor delivered a scathing critique of Henyard's leadership. "This isn't about personal attacks," she said. "This is about doing what's right for the people of Dalton. We're not here to serve ourselves, we're here to serve them." Her words were met with applause from the audience, but Henyard remained unfazed. "I'm doing my job," she shot back. "Maybe you should focus on doing yours."